Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to another Arena Cube draft. Without further ado, let's just get right into the draft. As always, tons of incredibly powerful options in the Arena Cube to start with. Pack 1, pick 1. We have Dragon's Rage Channeler for a blue-red spells deck. We've got Oracle of the Alpha for a blue-white flicker deck. Agent of Treachery as well. Works quite well in that archetype where you can repeat their enter the battlefield effects. We've got Ulamog for ramp. We've got Avacyn for any aggressive white deck. Tons of really great options. This time, I don't think I'm going to start with the red card. I don't think Dragon's Rage Channeler is super pack 1 pick 1-able as much as I love some mono red aggro nonsense. Could go for some Oracle of the Alpha Brews, get some power 9 into our deck. That could be pretty fun. Agent of Treachery is pretty abusable, being able to just steal a bunch of your opponent's permanents in the right position. Can be super nasty. I think one of the blue cards would be pretty interesting to me. We'll try out the Oracle of the Alpha. That's always a pretty fun time. Pack 1, pick 2 now. We've got a pretty great follow-up. I like Brazen Borrower a lot. It's cheap interaction, being a 2-mana bounce spell, and it also comes with a cheap creature attached, the 3-mana 3/1 flyer to beat down with, so I like that quite a bit. Go with our Oracle of the Alpha. There's also a great removal spell in black with Pylon, and cheap interaction and cheap spells in general are at a premium in Cube Draft. Definitely want to make sure that you're always impacting the board early in the game, so that even if you're not aggro, you can compete against those really aggressive decks like mono red, mono white, or any variation of aggressive red and white aggro. So cheap removal, cheap creatures, always at a premium no matter what deck you're playing, but Borrower does fit into that category as well as cheap interaction with the bounce spell and the cheap dork. So I think we can go with Brazen Borrower and stick with our Oracle of the Alpha here, but Pylon seems sweet too. Gliss is explosive, as always. Tons of super strong stuff. For pick 3 now, we don't really have anything in blue. Terramander's nice if you've got a lot of instants and sorceries in your deck. So really a blue-red spells kind of card where it's going to be the absolute best. Not going to be super great with what we currently have. There is a Thraben Inspector if we want to just pick up more good enter the battlefield effects. So that if we get any flicker style effects, then we can, again, really utilize these enter the battlefield effects to the most of their power, like doubling them up, tripling them up over time. I think they put the new Elesh Norn into this cube as well, which like doubles your enter the battlefield effects, so that could be pretty cool. So we can go Thraben Inspector here. I think that's reasonable. Could also go like Archpriest here as a pretty good value play, recurring some creatures from your graveyard. Nice little reanimator effects. Or we could just scoop up a dual land. Is definitely nice to have a lot of fixing, so you can support 2, 3, even 4 color decks in this cube if you want, but I'll go Inspector. We'll just keep grabbing some great enter the battlefield effects. Now we've got a Seal Away for excellent cheap removal. There's also Restoration of Agonjo, which just does so much for its mana cost that it might get the leg up here against Seal Away. You get to draw a basic land, a basic plane specifically, but that's already going to make it a 2-for-1 because you're going to get the Architect out of it and you're going to get a plains into your hand. Then you're also going to be able to discard a card and put something from your graveyard back onto the board. Just a lot of good value for a cheap entry fee. I think I'll go for Restoration of Agonjo. We could also go for Thassa's Intervention here, just sticking as heavy to blue as possible. Sky Sovereign's quite nice, being a removal spell, and kind of a repeatable removal spell as well. If you can crew this and attack with it, it just keeps shooting a creature for 3 every time it attacks. So Sky Sovereign's also sweet, as is the blue-white duel. Really good stuff all around, as always, but I'll go Restoration of Agonjo. I'm a pretty big fan of the card. Pick 5, we do see Experimental Frenzy and Legion Warboss. The mono-red absolute monster inside of me is just screaming, but that's okay. We've got Impulse and Consider for great instant speed card draw spells. We have Drowned Catacomb if we want to be able to put some blue in this deck, or some black in this deck. And we've got Solemn Simulacrum for solid fixing. Ranger of Eos is a really good value play if you have a lot of 1-mana value creatures. So right now we have 1 Thraben Inspector, but if we find enough more, then this is like a 4-mana 3/2 that draws 2 cards when it hits the board, which is pretty good. Actually kind of want to go for the Ranger here rather than just a instant speed blue card draw spell. Like that card a lot. Ooh, okay. Approach of the Second Sun, pick 6, massive win condition for a blue-white control deck. We're currently a lot more like blue-white flicker, blue-white enter the battlefield effect focused than control focused. But with Approach of the Second Sun, we can start changing that around and heading in that direction. A little bit of a shame to have to pass up on like Cold Steel Heart for it, which is excellent. 2 mana rocks like this are really good at helping you get to the explosive 6 and 7 mana plays that are in the cube, like Approach of the Second Sun. Also, we've passed up on multiple blue-white dual lands, which could also be a problem, because there's only going to be one of each. So if we don't get Hollowed Fountain this pack, we're not going to get Hollowed Fountain in this entire draft. So stuff like that's going to be a bit awkward for our mana base as well, but I'm really tempted by the Approach of the Second Sun. We will scoop that up. Now we have Spirited Companion, great enter the battlefield effect to draw a card. We've also got a blue-white duel that can cycle away that's nice. Felidar Retreat can slowly take over the game, giving you a 2/2 every time you play a land. Sky Strike Officer can just snowball into a ton of value, giving you a soldier every time it attacks. Just excellent, excellent stuff we've seen. I think Modern Age is the weakest of these 3. Well, these 4, really. Fiend's Tower is also on that list. I like getting my first 2 mana creature. Again, I probably should be taking duels a lot more highly. Yeah, let's actually get some amount of fixing. There are tons of powerful cards in the cube that are going to be like double blue and double white, so even when you're a 2-color deck, having the fixing is pretty important, because missing on just like one spell can be a big deal. Like if you're just stuck on your mana on turn 3 and you can't cast your double blue Brazen Borrower, so you just cast nothing, in a format where everything is so powerful and people are going to be curving out consistently, that can be just a death sentence there. So picking duels pretty highly is kind of important, especially because, again, with the card quality being as high as it is, you're not really going to end up with too few playables if you spend multiple picks on good non-basic lands like we're doing here. You're still going to end up with more than 23 non-land cards if you're a 2-color deck or more. I like Censor a lot. I do not have enough experience with any of the alchemy cards, especially alchemy counterspells, to really know how good they are. I mean, this seems pretty solid. Counterspell, draw a card. 4 mana is a lot, though. I really like the flexibility on Censor, where you have it in your opening hand and you get to counter something on curve from your opponent, but you draw it later, you always get to cycle it away, get your next card. Take a blue-white duel again here. Alrund is a pretty good card draw engine as the 5 mana half, and early in the game you can just slam down the Whispering Raven, scry a little bit, put it back in your hand to put Alrund down later, so it is a good card, but again, I think we gotta take some duels. So I will actually start doing that here in the end of pack 1. The Terramander for another 1 mana creature to go with our Ranger Vios, so I'll take that. Selfless Spirit has some pretty gross combos with some graveyard recursion in the set, particularly Lurrus. Because with Lurrus, you can recast this from your grave every turn. You can just keep using that to make Lurrus indestructible. It's pretty gross. It's an irrigated farmland, but now I have taken Rafine's Tower and Spara's Headquarters. So we've got 2 duels, even if I go ahead and take Thassa's Intervention over it. And I think we are going to end up just being 2 colors, so I think I can afford to do that. I think Intervention's a really nice, really expensive, like big late game counterspell that also works as card draw. Pretty flexible to consider here over Spell Pierce, because there are going to be some just super creature heavy decks, and we're pretty happy to be in a controlling blue deck here. Think that is the place to be. Seeing the double counterspell being the last 2 cards in that pack. Seems like blue-white control is going to be quite a decent archetype to be in this draft pod. So what have we got now? What are we doing here? We've got a Sun Titan, which is obviously massive, but you want to have a lot of permanence, especially with mana value 3 or less. I guess that's pretty good with Fabled Passage and the cycling lands that we have, so that's kind of cool. It can at least pick up lands, but still, we don't need too many finisher kind of cards. As cool as that is, it's great with flicker cards, enter the battlefield cards like Blade Splicer, Restoration of Agonjo, Brazen Borrower, I guess all our cheap cards in general. But I kind of would rather just pick up like an Agonjo here. Just have a land that can also be used as removal, because Great Shark probably comes back. All the counterspells have been wheeling. I guess this is a lot more appealing than a general counterspell, because it's a gigantic shark. I mean, everybody loves Jaws and Meg and all that, so maybe somebody will just take it because it's a cool shark, but I'm going to take a Gonjo here, actually. Again, spending picks on lands is generally pretty great in the cube because you're always going to end up with enough non-land playables, and every non-basic land you take is just improving your deck a little bit no matter what, because you just run a Gonjo over Plains, and this is going to be significantly better than that Plains whenever we draw it, as it's much more flexible. Now we've got an Ornithopter of Paradise, I suppose, although Wormcoil Engine's a pretty nice finisher. This thing is absurd if your opponent can't just exile it. Yeah, you have to spend a lot of resources to deal with this thing. This might be worth it even in a blue-white deck that doesn't need that many finishers, but Ornithopter Paradise also pretty appealing as a 2-mana mana rock. That's a hard choice between the Engine and the Ornithopter, but I think those are the two choices I'm interested in. Not that interested in the Invasion. Much better in a more aggressive deck where you flip it quickly and then start getting counters on your board. Not really what we're doing, more controlling. I'm gonna go for the Ornithopter over the Wormcoil, but I could definitely see the argument for Wormcoil. I think the card is sweet. Now we have Commit to Memory. Nice little temporary counterspell. It's going to tuck away your opponent's spell second from the top, and then it's going to let you have each player shuffle their hand and graveyard back into their deck and draw 7 later on. Back 2, pick 4. It's an Adeline, which is just a busted card in general. Not really what blue-white is doing, but she might be strong enough to take anyway. Same with, like, Lyra here. Disdainful Stroke's probably okay in this cube, but we got to worry about the aggressive red-white aggro decks that just aren't going to have a lot of mana value for or greater cards. Could be some issues with Disdainful Stroke. Atali's completely busted. Elvish Mystic's completely busted. But these are pretty far off from what we're doing. Don't really think doing much creature-heavy stuff like Adeline style, but I guess Adeline's an army in a can by herself, and I'm really concerned about Disdainful Stroke. In the wrong matchup, Disdainful Stroke's going to be super, super bad. To where I'd be pretty happy to take it in best of 3 in traditional Arena Cube draft, but here in best of 1, I think I'm just going to ignore it. I guess we take Rona here because we're definitely not a Clarion Spirit deck. Going for approach, counter spells, Thassa's intervention style stuff. It's Otawara, that's a great pickup. Could take Spectral Sailor to go with our Ranger of Eos, but we might be cutting it in the end. I think I'd rather just take Otawara. Again, just much better than an island. It's an island that if we top deck it when we're flooding out can actually do something. Can bounce whatever we need to. Pretty hard to activate Golos in this deck. Yeah, we have no red sources right now. I could work towards it, but working towards that direction from a blue-white control start does feel kind of awkward. Take Blink of an Eye or Duel here. Take a Duel. I think Golos would still be reasonable, but definitely require some work. Take a board wipe now. Get our first way to just clear the board against more aggressive strategies. That's definitely a pretty important thing to have here. We're going to take it over a very good counterspell because we already have like 3 counterspells or 4 counterspells, but we don't have a board wipe yet. So we'll scoop that up. We do get the Great Shark back. That's pretty awesome. Scoopity scoop that up. Grab an Electrolyze, it's the closest to getting played. Mythos is closest to getting played. Disdainful Stroke is closest. We're not going to be doing any Kenrith things. Alright, and then we'll see what we get in pack 3, but deck's looking pretty alright already. See how good it ends up being after we see what additions we get in the 3rd and final pack of the draft. Ooh, we're not done with pack 2 additions. We do find a Spectral Sailor to go with Ranger of Eos. We could just be a weird blue-white control deck that's also running a 1-drops and Ranger of Eos package. All right. Okay, pack 3, pick 1. Got Cyclonic Rift. 7 mana is a lot, but bounce your opponent's entire board state while keeping your own is pretty big. Scarab God we'd have to splash in, but it's a huge finisher. Lingering Souls we'd also have to splash in, but it's an incredible amount of creatures off of just 1 card. There's Nightclub Bouncer, which is a great tempo bounce play, and there's Time Warp, which is pretty gross when you have any creature or planeswalker on the board to really abuse your extra turn, get another combat step, get another turn to uptick your planeswalkers. I think I'm going to go for Time Warp. There's so much good stuff here. Time Warp, Scarab God, Nightclub Bouncer, Rift, the Lingering Souls. I think I go for Time Warp. I think we take that and we wheel one of those other cards, and any of those would be pretty great for us. Ooh, Vendilion clicks on Arena? 3 mana, 3/1, flash flying. When it enters the battlefield, look at target player's hand. You could choose a non-land card, put it on the bottom of their library, and then they draw a card. So you make them get a different card into their hand. That's probably the pick. Seems pretty great. Fateful Absence is solid removal as well, but you do 2 for 1 yourself to cast this, because you're spending 1 card to blow up their 1 card, but also giving them a card back. So they get 2 cards, you get 1 card, basically. Fairy Mastermind also seems pretty solid. Elesh Norn, obviously pretty solid. I'm going to go for Vendilion Click. I'm just kind of excited that that's on Arena, because I've never played with Vendilion Click, but I've heard all about it all the time. It's like a classic from Lorwyn. Cool stuff. Ooh, Mole Drifter. There's got to be Flicker stuff in this cube, right? We've taken so many Enter the Battlefield effect cards, but we've seen like no Flicker cards, and now there's Mole Drifter in the cube too? There's got to be Flicker cards somewhere. Anyways, I think we're closer to a Supreme Will deck than a Mole Drifter deck right now, because we have no way to flicker our stuff. Could also take this big intervention for another big late game spell, but love the flexibility on Supreme Will being a counter spell, or letting us Impulse, letting us grab the best card out of our top 4. That can also help dig back into an Approach the Second Sun really quick, which is nice. Oh, Sky Noodle! It's Yorion! That's pretty nice. That's a flicker card right there. We have to have a 60 card deck if we want this in the companion slot. I don't think we're going to make it to that, but even in the main deck, I think this will be solid. Big flyer. We get our Vendilion Click enter the battlefield effect again, or our Oracle. Didn't go super hard on enter the battlefield effects though, so maybe like Pact of Negation might be better, or Thirst for Discovery. I'm going to take Yorion anyway. A little too cool to pass up. None of these are blue-white duels. There's OG Counterspell, or there's Monastery Mentor, which spits out creatures every time we're casting an instant or sorcery. Both seem great here. Counterspell or Monastery Mentor, really. I don't think Mana Tithe is good for this deck, though. The part that's so good about Mana Tithe is nobody sees it coming, so it's really good at non-blue white decks. I'm going to go for Counterspell here. We'll get some OG Counterspell nonsense in this deck. It's a Hard Evidence, which is a card I like a lot, but I think we got to just take the Great Planeswalker here. The Teferi Temporal Pilgrim works super well with Time Warp.
Well, here I am.
Mainly for flavor reasons, but also because it's a Planeswalker. Midnight Clock is quite solid. It's going to be a mana rock to get into our late game spells, and it's a win condition later. If you shuffle your hand into your library and draw a fresh 7 late in the game, that's usually just going to end the game from that point on. Suvin Mist is interesting. Some alchemy nonsense. You get a duplicate of something you bounce. Rather just take Midnight Clock. Ooh, Elspeth Conquers Death is pretty great removal. It's kind of expensive, but you get a whole Reanimator effect attached to it for that bonus mana cost. Also, Hall of Storm Giants gives you a finisher on a land, which is nice. Actually, I think I'm going to go Hall of Storm Giants. Really like the idea of being able to just finish my opponent off with a land. Take Nightclub Bouncer here. We could still take the Scarab God. play a couple swamps in here off our Fabled Passage. But I think the bouncer's pretty good, and I think we're doing great on win conditions now, because we've got a bunch of random flyers that might chip away for the win. We've got the approach that's really going to win. Teferi can win the game. Yorion's a big flyer. And we've got, like, Hall of Storm Giants can even just beat our opponent down as a land. Take Fateful Absence. Take Aether Channeler. Take Thirst for Discovery over Pact of Negation. I think I'd rather have the big card draw spell than the 5 mana counter. I mean, it's free when you play it, but then you have to spend 5 the next turn. I really like Thirst. Draw 3, discard 1. Just a huge deal. Ooh, Hard Evidence. We actually get a playable out of that pack. We'll take it. And a Vesuvan Mist. That's also playable. Probably going to get cut, though, because I'm not going to put any more black sources into this deck. So, if I wanted to companion Yorion, I would be playing a deck with 31 non-land cards and like 19 lands. Unless I put a Mythos in here. I mean, I guess it's clone. That's not unplayable. If I put Mythos in here, then we'd still have a lot of land. I think 28 land? I think that's a little tiny bit too much. It's like right on the cusp. We could do it. We could go 28 land Yorion. But we will also flood out. Probably looks something like this. I mean, I guess the thing that's really nice about Yorion to consider is that, like, it gives us something to do with 3 mana and 5 mana. So it's pretty expensive. It's a lot to do with our mana. We've got a lot of card draw in this deck. Like Thirst for Discovery. I guess not a lot of card draw. We've got Thirst for Discovery, Thassa's Intervention, Consider, Hard Evidence. For the quantity of cards in the deck, for a 60-card deck, it's not a lot of card draw. But I don't know, there's like a Memory we can refresh a hand, Midnight Clock can refresh a hand. I might go for 60-card Yorion here. This deck is almost definitely better 40 cards. But companioning is just really fun. And then we get to companion 2 decks in a row. We do the fun thing, we do the goofy thing here. I think we have all of the tools that we need based on how we drafted to make a really nice 40-card just blue-white control deck. So, pretty happy with how the draft itself went, but I think I'm going to get a little doofy in the deck building and just go for that 60-card Yorion pile. Yeah, we'll go for the Sky Noodle and call it a deck there. Alright, here's a look at our deck list for today. It's going to be a blue-white control deck with Yorion in the companion slot. So we are running a 60-card deck here with a ton of lands. We're at 28 lands to get to the Yorion, but we'll always have quite a bit of stuff to do with our mana, because Yorion's already an 8-mana mana sink there. 3 mana to put Yorion in the hand, 5 mana to cast the Yorion later, and we've just got a lot of spells going all the way up the curve. We've got some big X mana stuff as well. We could dump a lot into like Thassa's Intervention, but 7 mana stuff like Approach, Realm Cloak Giant. A lot of opportunities to play multiple spells in one turn if we're doing something like a Thirst for Discovery to draw an extra card, or we get to recast a Memory from Grave to get a new hand of 7. So we should probably not flat out super horrifically every single time, but that will be one of the flaws of the deck, one of the things that could definitely go wrong. Overall, though, just a lot of great blue-white spells in general. Lots of counter spells, a good amount of card draw, everything you kind of want in a blue-white control archetype. The basic stuff, but with a Yorion at the end to potentially flicker some stuff and just be a nice flyer. So, pretty fun deck, very different from our first deck, so excited about that. But we've got that through line of having a companion in both of our first 2 drafts of this Arena Cube, so should be pretty cool, should be pretty fun. Without further ado, let's just head into gameplay and see how it does. Here we are on the play for game number 1, and we've got a win condition in here already. We've got the approach in the opener. I don't think you really want the approach in the opener. I forgot how these lands work. I should have played this turn 1. Starting off with the punts. That's how we love it. But we can drop it turn 2 and we're not punished. Anyways, I don't think you ever want approach in the opening hand, but it is cool to know that we've got that game plan coming up. Growth spirals. That's going to ramp them up and draw them another card. I'm going to go ahead and censor that, and that's going to make it real easy to dump all my mana into putting Yorion into hand next turn. And this is just going to give us the time to set some stuff up before our opponent gets really explosive ramping up in their green-blue deck. I did draw into Restoration of Eiganjo, so we're going to do that instead of Yorion here. There's a Fauna Shaman. That card is excellent. Love that card in Cube. Because that is going to let you... Actually, Apt Ornithopter Paradise is basically the same, right? Mind if I 2 or less? Yeah. Anyways, Fauna Shaman is going to let them put any creature in their hand into their graveyard to grab anything out of their deck. So if they have, like, an 8 mana creature in their hand right now, they can discard it and grab something that's 4 mana, or later in the game, if they top deck an Elvish Mystic or something, a 1 mana mana dork, they can discard that to pull out like their big 7-8 mana bomb. So Fauna Shaman's pretty scary here. So we can't kick this Vesuvian Mist. I could bounce Fauna Shaman. I think I would rather wait for them to spend more on something else and bounce that, so I'm just going to pick up Yorion. Key to the Archive, ramping up for sure. This also gives them a selection of very powerful cards from the Mystical Archives, like Approach of the Second Sun, Day of Judgment, Time Warp, to choose from. And one of them just goes immediately into their hand, and then they discard a card. So we won't know which one they managed to draft, unless they discard a Mystical Archives card, then we can be like, oh. But yeah, Key to the Archive is a fantastic, fantastic mana rock. Oh. Well. Odds are that they drafted that from the Mystical Archive, but technically, that's the only version of Time Warp on Arena, so they might just have a Time Warp in their deck, and they discarded that one, so I guess we don't get to know for certainty what they drafted, but more likely than not, feels like they drafted a Time Warp. Okay, so we're still 1 mana away from Approach of the Second Sun. I can drop a Yorion, but I don't flicker anything good. I've got the black mana for Vesuvian Mist now. I guess... this is a little goofy, but I guess I could get my own Key to the Archive and slow down their mana ramp here. This is probably more cute than anything, but I think it's cool. Then I might be able to play a Key to the Archive and then flicker it with the Yorion. But yeah, now they just spend their next turn replaying the Key to the Archive instead of playing a 6-drop. I think that went pretty well. Even if they do get to draft again. It's just like a draw a card, discard a card, except the card that they draw is definitely good. Well, discard a D-Spark. That definitely came from the Archive. There's no way they had a main deck D-Spark in their green-blue deck. So I think I dropped my own key, honestly. And then I'm still holding up Disdainful Stroke off of the Ornithopter. I guess I could buff the Terramander and try to speed up the clock, but I'd rather hold up Disdainful Stroke and get my Key to the Archive down. And that's going to let us start casting Approach of the Second Suns. Could bolt their Fauna Shaman. Does not look like a game where I really... This is kind of goofy. I'm going to discard Yorion. Doesn't look like a game where I'm really going to need a Day of Judgment, like board wipe. Actually, I probably should have discarded Approach the Second Sun, honestly. No, that's wrong. I was going to say, because then if they drafted a Day of Judgment, then I could still start getting some stuff on the board. But if they drafted a Day of Judgment off of Key to the Archive, I just Disdainful Stroke it and we keep beating down. So we're good. We're solid. Torrential Gearhulk. Absolutely not. We will Disdainful Stroke that. No Lightning Bolt for Fauna Shaman this turn, though. They've got the 1 green mana up, so they can grab whatever creature they need in this position. I don't know how much that's really going to help them, though. Yeah, I definitely should have discarded Approach, because I think I just want to evolve the Terramander over anything this turn. How much mana does this take? 4 engrave, so it takes 4 total. Do that. So I still have my Key to the Archive up for more sources of any color. Could bolt the Fauna Shaman to save this 1/1 Spirit, but I can save the bolt to shoot their face for the last few points of damage as well, which could be fun. Yeah, I'm just going to hold up the bolt. They're already going to get 1 use out of Fauna Shaman no matter what. If I try to bolt it now, they just use it in response if they have a creature in hand. Yeah, and they're not even using it, so it doesn't feel that important to kill it. They must not have an expendable creature spell in their hand. There's a Kogla the Titanape. That's gonna hit the board, but I think we're still gonna be able to kill them through that. So it fights with Terramander. It's not great. 2 mana to return a human, and that's an elf. So I could bolt Kogla. So they have 1 blocker up, and it has to trump the Architect. I think that's what I have to do here. I only have to deal 1 damage to them to kill them if I just hold on to Lightning Bolt. But I can't. I'm attacking with a 3/4 and a 1/1. The 3/4 runs into a 7/6. The 1/1 runs into a 2/2. So I think we have to just clear out the Kogla. Activate Hall of Storm Giants and attack with everybody, and that should be lethal on board, and even if it's not, all they have is a chump block. Blue and 5? I think we have the mana for that. What the heck? It's holding a white up? Oh no, it just highlights it because... It highlights it because it's the thing that's becoming a creature. I see. It was highlighting it, and I thought it was going to tap it to its own ability to stop the 7/7 from attacking this turn. But yeah, this is dead on board if they've got nothing in hand here. And there's not a lot they could do for 1 green mana, so they are going to scoop them up. That is going to be a victory in game 1. Definitely some lines we could have done it a little bit better. I think the main thing was just the discard. I should have discarded Approach. We were already just winning on board. We didn't need to go for the late game Approach as a secondary win condition. Should have kept all of our threats. Maybe stack some more damage down there, but overall, really solid stuff from our deck is going to find a victory in round 1. Here we are on the play for game number 2. Not going to be doing anything till turn 3 this game, but I do love the hand, especially Restoration of a Gonjo to grab us another land. This whole 28 land deal, 28 land 60 card deck thing is working out pretty well. I guess that is pretty close to the number of lands that like blue-white control decks actually want to play in constructed formats. They are pretty land-heavy decks. So I was probably overestimating how how bad the mana base would be playing the 60 card Yorion version. This might just objectively be the right version of the deck. This could also just be results-oriented thinking, just in that we haven't flooded out yet, but I wasn't thinking about the fact that it is a 60 card deck, and I'm much less used to the number of lands that you run in 60 card decks than I am the number of lands that you would run in 40 cards. Like, I know what a lot of lands for a 40 card deck is. 60 cards, much less familiar with. And yeah, come to think of it, like, I can look up like the meta on MTG Goldfish and stuff, and sometimes it's like there is gonna be a 28 land control deck. That's just a thing that happens. So we can ramp up a little. Hall of Storm Giants is gonna hit the board tapped anyway, so we'll choose that one. And then we're gonna bounce Adeline, just definitely. Do we want to use Commit, so it takes them a while to redraw her, or do we want to use Otawara? They just immediately recast Adeline. I think I would rather use Commit. So we wait till they move to combat. And then we commit Adeline back. This way, they don't have an Adeline on board this turn, they don't have an Adeline on board next turn, they redraw her quite a bit later. Unless I Vendilion Click, then they'll draw her again pretty quickly. They have a protection spell in this cube? Nope, at least not in their hand. Sarah Paragon, 3/4 flyer. They can recast stuff from their grave. Alright. I guess I could memory. Then they just shuffle Adeline back, which is pretty funny. They can replay lands from grave as well, right? Yeah. So I could Mythos that, and then I can Otawara and replay Otawara from grave. It's kind of cute. Yeah, I think that's cute enough. The only instance I could really hold up here is Vendilion Click or Otawara, and I don't think that's super powerful. I'm trying to dump my hand here for memory. Lyra Dawnbringer with another angel. Disgusting. So we're down to 16 and they go up to 24. If I hit a black source, I can Vesuvian Mist their Lyra. We just play what they play every turn. Can't really do that right now. I could still bounce Lyra just to slow them down. We've got 2 bounce spells here. We have Vesuvian Mist plus Otawara. Yeah, that dumps my hand pretty quick, and by bouncing a bunch of their cards, they have a much larger hand when I cast Memory later than we do, potentially. So, I think I do Vesuvian Mist right now. So I can send in the team and get a 1/1. And then I Otawara next turn. And then the turn after this, I replay Otawara from the grave as my land for turn, and then like memory it up. This could be pretty great if they just like recast Lyra. Because then they'll have 6 cards in hand. Oh my god, yeah, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be a great memory. Not going to be completely one-sided, but it'll be close. Alright, I could play this from grave, or I could just play the Glacial Fortress that's in hand, since this is going to go away anyway. And then we memory. Yep. Oh, I guess that gets shuffled in also. Never mind. Cool. I've redrawn the bounce spell at instant speed, and if I don't cast it, I can play Spectral Sailor. Seems good to me. Jam everybody in here, hold up the Vesuvian Mist for the Sarah Paragon. Do I have a legend on board? I don't think I have a legend on board. Dang, so a Gonjo is 3 mana to deal 4 to an attacker or blocking creature. A little too expensive right now. Wow, we have Vesuvian Mist and a Nightclub Bouncer. If I Nightclub Bouncered first, that could be so annoying. Because then whatever I bounce costs 2 more to cast. If I bounce it again, that still works that way. So if they attack here, they're also attacking with a 1/1 human. But that's fine, because I block a 1/1 with a 3/4. Okay, we actually don't need to bounce in response. Probably will still bounce the Sarah Paragon, since they don't have the mana to recast her this turn anyway. Seal away. Okay, maybe I won't. Because I could Vesuvian Mist the seal away, and so I can keep my Sarah Paragon. Either keep my own Paragon or bounce theirs. I think I'd rather... I mean, if I bounce the seal away, they're still going to have it for later. But then I can Nightclub Bouncer Adeline on combat, hit for 6, 7, 8. A lot of damage. I'm going to do this. Let's bounce the seal away. Ooh, attacks or blocks. Thank you, that is exciting. Didn't even realize that. All right, no haste. Can bounce Adeline to get everybody in, or I could just Agonjo Adeline. Either of those is pretty nice. Let's go for the bounce here. Let's be annoying. That's a 5 mana Adeline now, I think. They're down to 2. Got an Agonjo up. Sailor, Vendilion Click. Could just immediately click away something. Sure. Still holding up Agonjo because Vendilion Click's a legend. Anything that saves them here? Not really. I don't think any of this is going to save them. At 2 life? I'm gonna decline, because if I ditch one of those, I'm just giving them another opportunity to top deck a Day of Judgment or something. And that's the only way they're gonna win. Because we have 8 creatures on board they need to deal with. So they can keep a Seal Away and a Valorous Stance and all the kind of individual removal. So that is gonna be another victory for the blue-white Eorian deck. We are now 2-0 as we head into Game 3. Here we are for Game 3 with another Snap Keep. Probably not necessary, but I'm going to do the turn 1 Terramander, because we also want double blue on board for Bouncer and Great Shark. If I hit another blue source, I can still cycle the headquarters, but yeah, we didn't hit another blue, so... Well, now if I want a Thraben Inspector, I have to go Plains, though. Go headquarters into Adeline, or I could go Plains into Plains Adeline. But then, don't get the tap land out of the way. Probably best to just play headquarters here. Safest. But I'm going to get greedy. And I'm going to get hopeful. We're a 28 land deck. If I draw any other land, I think it's actually better to do this into Adeline and then maybe cycle headquarters later. But also, if we still don't cycle headquarters later, we can play it tapped turn 4 and still be fine. Alright, we're playing against Sultai, and they are ramping up right now. But we are getting as aggressive as we can, at least. Well, that's incredible here. Kill Adeline, and Thraben Inspector, and Terramander. Okay, we do hit land 4. I can play Ranger. Grab my other 2 1-drops, I guess. Or I can just get the headquarters down so I have double blue next turn and draw a card off my clue. I think that's also reasonable. Or do that and put Yorion in hand. A lot of options all the time. Let's just reestablish a fresh hand here. Drop Ranger. I guess I only have 1-1-drop left because I drew 2 somehow that early. That's actually a bit of a bummer. Just realized I had 2 of my 3 1-drops in my opener. Ooh, wow. This is some gross stuff from our opponent. And their Cultivate has made it so, like, even if we were playing things perfectly on curve off of headquarters, we still wouldn't have Great Shark up by the time they played Gear Hulk because they ramped into it. So they had a 6-drop before we would have had our 5-mana counterspell up, which is super gross. Literally, no matter how we played this game, that Gear Hulk was coming down and doing disgusting things. Now I think I need to just hold up interaction. But we're falling real far behind. There's a Tarmogoyf. That's not scary. Thief of Sanity. That is... Yeah, we'll counter Thief of Sanity and have the 2 blockers up for the Gear Hulk. Now they're down to 1 card in hand. That 1 Great Shark kind of did a lot of work towards just balancing things out here. Because now they've got 1 card in hand, a 2-2 and a 2-3. A 3-3 and a 2-3. A 3-3 and a 3-4. There were no creatures in grave yet. Alright. Still, not bad for us now. 3 cards over there. We've got Bouncer, Sailor, Yorion over here. I think we can do things here. We can Bouncer the Pelt Collector to get rid of all the counters on it and draw a card off of our clue. Just take 3 damage from Tarmogoyf. We're still at 15. Solid. Maybe solid position.
This is my home, and I don't appreciate it when people touch my things.
Can have 3 power on board to attack Liliana. Well, I guess I could use my clue before I do this. If I use my clue before I do this, I can't play Bouncer and Sailor. I kind of want to play Bouncer and Sailor.
You won't be outsmarting
That way I get a flyer to hit Liliana with no matter what. Although, I think I need to wait to play Bouncer until their end step and just take all this damage so I can make sure Liliana doesn't have enough to -2. Yeah, that's extra ouchy. Okay, end step, perfect. So I think I'm still hitting Pelt Collector to get rid of all the counters on it, but I am playing Sailor so we can hit Liliana for 3 so she can't -2.
Watch it.
Approach is a really sad draw right now. Some 1 mana off. I guess I can sack my clue and draw a card to get around Liliana. Rather than putting Yorion in hand here. Yorion in hand with Nightclub Bouncer on board, though, does feel great. So we Yorion in hand and draw a card off the clue. And we're just going to have to discard something. Hopefully we draw something bad with the clue, I guess. There's Pelt Collector. 3 mana 1/1, let's go. And a 1 mana 1/1 Llanowar Elves. So that's land 7 for approach, but Yorion is real good here. A 4/5 blocks Tarmogoyf, and we flicker the bouncer. Hit Pelt Collector again, make it a 5 mana 1/1. No attacks. Very interesting. So they just didn't want to chump bouncer to keep Liliana around. Liliana is pretty good against control. So yeah, I guess they're just making sure they keep board state to deal with Liliana here. Or to protect Liliana here.
You couldn't be more annoying.
I think I hit Pelt Collector again. If I hit Tarmogoyf, it comes back on board and makes Pelt Collector bigger. Llanowar Visionary, draw a card. Land as the draw, and there's Pelt Collector.
Drop it.
I think we drop Counterspell with approach in hand. There's a Consider. One turn of chumps here. If I Yorion Liliana away. There's the land for the approach. Now I've got the land for approach even if Liliana stays, so I think I just hold Yorion.
Watch it.
Aww. Well, GG. Reach the Multiverse is like one of the best bombs ever printed, and I think it is actually even better in Cube than it was in March the Machine. That's a pretty good top deck. Guess we just needed to desperately hold on to Counterspell, just in case they had something like that in there. It is Cube. They're likely to have some pretty powerful spells. That Liliana was just putting us at such a disadvantage, discarding every single turn. It's hard to keep stuff. Well, almost stabilized into the approach win, but opponent finds the top deck breach in the end, and we're super dead.
We all have things we'd rather forget.
There's Thassa's intervention to troll us a turn later. Doesn't really matter what we do here now. At 9 life. If I don't hit Liliana, they just make me sack the Sailor anyway. Cool. Yeah. So the other line is they make me sack Sailor and then they go for the throat, the bouncer anyway. Alright. 2-1 as we head into game 4. Here we are for game number 4. Another beautiful opening hand. Get things rolling with our hard evidence. Turn 2, get the headquarters down. So I can drop restoration on 3. There's a Thief of Sanity. That's super bad. Do not have anything to deal with that right now. Yeah, turn 3 Thief of Sanity on the play. Pretty spooky. So they draw the best card out of our top 3 every single turn and just use it against us. Drop a Gilded Goose for some mana ramp. That is it for now. I already had a Plains Engrave because they milled me. Still have to discard a card to do that. I've got a lot more double blue than double white, so I'm gonna just get another island. Four mana. Just hold up Dismiss. If we don't need to do it, we can still bounce something with Otawara or draw a card off our clue, I guess. I mean, Thief of Sanity alone is just already going to take this. If I don't get something down to stop it. So I'm going to need to get Yorion down soon. Could Otawara it back, but then they just recast it while I'm tapping out of the counter. Keep doing Thief of Sanity things. They're just going to pass turn. I guess we bounce it in the end step then. So they can't recast it right now. It does not have flash. Got 6 mana up here, so I can spend 2 on whatever I want and 4 on Dismiss. So we're just sacking a clue and dismissing. Just a draw 2, divination for our opponent. There's the Thief of Sanity. Go for the dismiss on that. Pretty good disdainful stroke opportunity for our opponent. So Thief of Sanity resolves. Let's draw our clue card. Find a Rafine's Tower. 7 mana to play with now. Might have to just copy their thief. Then at minimum they have to spend removal on our thief. 3 mana left to dump on Yorion so that I can play a Yorion next turn and have a 4/5 against the thief. I think that's reasonable. The Thieves' Trade. Mythos has successfully been used as removal. How do we deal with Jin-Gitaxias? Spoiler alert, I don't think we do. My first instant, sorcery, or artifact each turn gets countered. So I can still play Yorion and Spectral Sailor. Still play creatures. But I can't do any of my instants and sorceries unless I have multiple. Yeah, that's definitely not good. Just drop a Yorion, start hitting them for 4 in the sky every turn. Could flip this. I don't think that does anything. Guess it draws us another plains. Reanimates a land from grave again. Primal Command. They're just gonna hit my dual land? Oh, they get to double it up. Sure. Just hit both my white sources, I guess. That's so egregious, it's not even funny. Cycle Rafine's Tower. Because I don't actually need a white source right now. It's just rude. So I'll do that while I've got the mana up. Oh, they didn't shuffle? Yeah, they just put them on top. They didn't use the second one to shuffle. Alright, I guess I do just redraw the white source then. I would have expected... I guess they can't choose different abilities. That's always weird to me. When you copy a modal spell, you have to copy the same abilities. Well, I mean... just gonna play flyers and attack. Maybe we'll get them to just keep doing dirtly stuff like last turn. Or it's like they didn't really do much, so we just get to poke with flyers. Oh, why am I playing my flash creature right now? No reason to play that right now, because they might have like another board wipe of some kind, like the extinction event that we saw from another opponent earlier. So we should have played that in their end step. Just defaulting to dumping all my flyers out and seeing what we can get done with them. Black Sun's Twilight, doubled up. There goes Oracle and Yorion. Nope, Spectral Sailor and Yorion is the choice. Sure. Does pan out poorly that we punted the Spectral Sailor onto the board there. This just means they double removal. I mean, genuinely, I don't think any of this matters at this point anyway. Because they can't cast any spells and they get to double up every spell regardless. But it would be better to have a Spectral Sailor on this board to poke them for one more damage as well. Actually, I guess if I didn't play Spectral Sailor yet, we would be hitting them for one less. Alright, if I can draw that and another spell, we can kill Jin Gataxius. Here's the double Supreme Will for the draw 2. Tear Asunder, doubled up. Can't counter that with Stroke. I'm going to draw into a Fateful Absence that I can't cast till I can cast another spell with it in the same turn. Actually, they're even going to draw my Fateful Absence since they cleared out all my flyers, so I can't block. Alright, yeah, I'm just going to scoop them up here. We're not breaking through this one, because now we're not even going to draw into removal, and even if we do, we have to hit it and another cheap enough spell to cast. And they're just going to keep doubling up everything for the rest of this game. Kind of just lost to the Resolve Jin Gataxius the second that hit the board. Played it out for a while just in case, but no shot there. 2 and 2 as we head into Game 5. Alright, here we are on the play for Game 5. Don't need to hold Disdainful Stroke up till my opponent has 4 mana, so I would rather drop Spectral Sailor turn 1 and play Rafine's Tower turn 2. Uh-oh. Boros aggro. Let's see if we can draw our board wipe. I don't think we've drawn our board wipe a single time yet. Our Realm Cloaked Giant. But that would be a fantastic draw this matchup. Oracle of the Alpha, that's not a bad one. Actually get a 2/3 blocker onto this board. I think I'm gonna not chip in with the Sailor so I can threaten double blocks if it matters. Because we just need to survive the initial onslaught. If we win this game, it's going to be because we get a really controlling lead later, not because we're chipping in slightly faster. Oh my god. Sword of Fire and Ice, so they can give their whole deck protection from blue. Oh, I might as well kill 3/3 here. What am I doing? I guess then they kill Oracle of the Alpha instead of Spectral Sailor if I do that. Yeah, I'd rather just lose Spectral Sailor. But yeah, I mean, now they could just give... They can give any creature protection from, like, 90% of our deck. That's pretty rough. Well, I can hold up Dismiss now. That's a thing. They also do 2 more to us and draw a card every time? It's wild. I want to Dismiss here to get the 2 for 1 out of the way, but maybe I should Disdainful Stroke, because this is the only time we know they're playing a 4-drop or better. I'm going to be mana efficient. I'm going to go for Dismiss. Oh my god. Top deck Ancestral Recall. Oracle of the Alpha. You are a true homie. If I play Teferi, they're just going to put a sword onto Kenra and kill Teferi. So we're not playing Teferi here. We're holding up Disdainful Stroke. So I guess we Ancestral Recall. Get a Mox as well, and a Great Shark. Oh my god. Now I can Great Shark something? Oracle of the Alpha just being egregious here. I love how we were already playing a 60 card deck, so we have a 54 card deck in Limited right now because of Oracle of the Alpha, which is super funny. Alright, transform the Spell Spear. Kumano faces Kakazan. Can't counter that in any way. Ward 2. Oh, I miscounted. Thought I could Otawara after the flip. Should have Otawared before the flip. That is my bad. I could just trade Great Shark into this, though. Just not have to deal with it later. It's doing a lot of damage to me. That's probably the position that I'm forced myself into here. I think I should have bounced it before it flipped. That was pretty bad. Now I can play Teferi because they don't have a haste creature on board. So they need something that they can spit out with haste and put a Sword of Fire and Ice onto. Otherwise I chump with a Spirit. Take a Supreme Will. And I still get to hold Disdainful Stroke up here, which is awesome. Okay, that is not awesome for me, because that is exactly cheap enough to get a sword onto it, which means they get to hit my face for 5 and Teferi for 2 and draw a card. That's kind of perfect. That's super disgusting. Well, we're going back to where we started, where I thought we'd be at, which is just losing to Sword of Fire and Ice. Oh, they didn't kill Teferi? Then maybe not losing. Still probably are. But they're giving us a chance. So 4 mana for this. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right now. We have 3 mana for Supreme Will, 4 mana for Otawara. We just bounce whatever has the sword on it. Could I bounce the sword with this? I can bounce the sword and then kill the adversary if I have a big enough blocker, but I won't because it's a 3/3 even without the sword. I think I get another blocker here.
I've got eyes everywhere.
And then I do bounce the sword because it costs a lot of mana to replay it at least. And I could Supreme Will it maybe. Maybe should have played Headquarters instead of holding it for the cycle, but if I hold it for the cycle, then I could do Otawara and cycle and get a counter on the Spirit. Okay, so now I'm not countering Sword of Fire and Ice if I do this, but I could cycle the Spara's Headquarters to save the Spirit. Which gets a nice 2-for-1 on them, so I think it's worth it. Hopefully they just tap out a sword mana. Oh yeah, that's what we like to see. So they're tapped out a sword mana. So I could still Supreme Will it next turn. Let them go to combat, let them declare attacks, and then bounce before we declare blocks. So bounce before we declare blocks. Kill both the attackers. Take the 1/1 damage. Okay. 3 mana to Supreme Will the sword. If they have a 6th land, the sword will resolve, but they won't be able to equip it next turn. I can't just approach right now. I think I just need to hold up my instants, so we need to just make more dorks again.
It's nice to see a familiar face.
They do not have the land, so Supreme Will should be great here. Awesome. Oh, they do have the land, but they played it post-combat. Now a Blade Splicer. I just counter that as well. Feels like I counter that as well. They could attack Teferi with everybody and kill Teferi, but then I double block and kill the Adeline. This is a pretty fair trade. Alright, no attacks. Drawn to Time Twister? That's really good with Teferi on board. That's really cool for later. I don't think I want to give my opponent a fresh hand of 7 right now, though. I think I just want to approach, start setting that up. Approach, draw a card. Get closer to it. Oh my god, we hit Time Walk too? This is so gross. I could attack with the Oracle as well and scry even closer to the approach, but I'm going to play it pretty safe here. Okay, there's Stoke for the 4/4. Attack Teferi with Adeline. So I have to chump block if I want to keep Teferi. I think I do want to keep Teferi. And then we're just going to go draw a card, time walk, draw a card, approach. Get the approach of the second sun kill. This is going to be so gross. Get that extra turn. Copy any permanents with this. Copy Adeline, I guess, with the rest of my mana, since I'm about to untap everything anyway. Still 3 cards away. gonna draw another card.
I am here to learn.
And drop a Yorion. Got Adeline to chump Adeline. I just take 3. It's probably safer to hold up Counterspell. 2 cards away. Yeah, if the fairy doesn't die, then I just approach next turn. So let's just make sure we have 2 Counterspells up instead of another blocker. And they do scoop them up, so they do not have something that's going to kill me there. They know that I can draw for turn and draw off to fairy and cast approach next turn. All right. Nice recovery against the Boros aggro deck there, and we are going to be 3-2 now. An average run no matter what, but going to keep trying to get at least a couple more wins in here so we can grab all of our gold back out of this event. Here we are on the play now for game 6. I'm going to keep this even though it's mono blue. The majority of our deck is blue, and this has some great early plays. And there's Aspara's headquarters, so we are golden. Guess I'm not holding up Petty Theft by playing the headquarters, but it's going to let me cast my white spells early. And we wouldn't have cast Petty Theft on Maze Mind Tome, so it works out well for us. Three mana up here. Don't really want to Petty Theft that badly. Let's just get the Yorion tax out of the way immediately. Llanowar Elves. And a land, so they've got 4 mana up next turn. Got our own 4 mana up. We can Nightclub Bouncer whatever they ramp into. If we don't need to, we can drop a Spectral Sailor and a Brazen Borrower and start attacking if we want. Like the idea of Nightclub bouncing something big though. Not a Bloodbraid Elf. I also didn't know Bloodbraid Elf was on Arena now. That's very cool, but also not something that's good to bounce. What do they cascade into? Lotus Cobra? I guess. So now I Nightclub Bouncer the Lotus Cobra and trade into Bloodbraid Elf. And then it's a 4 mana Lotus Cobra in their hand, which is pretty bad. Yeah, this feels pretty excellent to me. I guess I could even bounce the Lotus Cobra and get a free kill on Llanowar Elves. Trade into Bloodbraid later. That's pretty awesome. Down to 17. The Time Warp as the draw. Gonna have to find some more lands for that, but that'll be juicy later. Land 5 would have been awesome for Great Shark, but if we don't have it, what is our best line? Probably just hold up our instance, Spectral Sailor and Petty Theft from Brazen Borrower. Feels right to me, because I don't think Aether Channeler is very good right now. We don't want to bounce their Cascade spell and let them cascade again. And that's the best thing that the Channeler can do, is just bounce a non-land permanent. The draw card, the 1/1, those are fine too. I guess we could play it and draw a card and just try to find our land for turn. Alright. Took our trade with the Bloodbraid Elf now. They've got a full grip of 7, we got a full grip of 7, we're all just chilling. They're going to recast the 4 mana Lotus Cobra. And we're going to Petty Theft that. They do have 2 mana up thanks to the landfall trigger. I can't respond with Petty Theft until they've already played their land for turn, so they do get the Maze Mind Tome trigger, but solid time to Petty Theft Lotus Cobra, so they have to spend 4 on it again. And I just drop Spectral Sailor. Cool, and there's land 5. It does hit the board tapped. A little bit of a bummer. Could go ahead and drop Ranger Veos here and get that out of the way. Since the only thing I'm holding up is draw a card off Sailor or Brazen Borrower's ability, which is not a counterspell anyway. I could make them fear counterspells though, that there might be some amount of value to be had in making them think I have a counter. Because then maybe they'll play something slightly weaker. That's very rude. I think we gotta let that happen. Again, I just don't have interaction for it. So it resolves. Yeah, they just play a 4-mana Lotus Cobra again. It's chill with us. A lot of 4-mana Lotus Cobras getting cast today. You love to see it. And now they pop the Maze Mine Tome. Card worked out very, very well for them. Lots of card draw off of that to keep them keeping up with us in cards. Alright. 6 mana now. Now we're just holding up Great Shark. Fairly certain. And poking them for 3. They're a green-red deck primarily, so their biggest plays should all be creatures for Great Shark to deal with. Guardian Idol, that's fine. Cultivator's Caravan's also fine. They're just going to play all their mana ramp first and then go for stuff later. That's actually a pretty big deal, because we're going to pass turn to them quite often, which means it's going to be easy for them to flip to the alpha, which gives them another 2/2 every turn. I think that's a big enough deal. I got to just drop Great Shark. And now we can just Time Warp this next turn and just beat down for like 16 damage if they don't chump with Lotus Cobra, which is a huge deal. Yeah, we can just go for Time Warp just for damage here, really. I think that'll be fine. Sweet, now even if they chump with Lotus Cobra next turn, they've taken a lot of damage off this. And I could just Aether Channeler the Cobra and make them play it again for 4 mana. Then I have a Vendilion click for whatever they've got going on in their hand. This feels just egregious. Put them down to 2. And let's see what's in their hand and see if there's any board wipes to get out of this. If not, we're good. That's big, not a board wipe. Big, not a board wipe. Big, not a board wipe. We're chill with that. Strong stuff. But none of it quite saves them. There's a lot of life gain in there, but I think they can only play one of the life gain spells. Don't believe they can stabilize and not die next turn. They've got a very cool deck. Yeah, now that we see their hand, we see all the big explosive stuff they were holding off of to get around counters. So drop a Nissa. Maybe, I mean, I didn't do the math. Maybe if they do the math here, they find something really ridiculous with Nissa. Maybe Nissa doubles up the mana to the point that they play Kogla and Yadaro, fight into something, and drop Great Henge in the same turn for life gain. That would be like just enough to survive if they can somehow do that. So they do get to play Nissa and Kogla and Yadaro. Then can they untap a forest and play Great Henge? Maybe? They can. Oh my god, that's insane. So they go to 1. It gains 3, right? No, it gains 2. Okay, they're still dead. It gains 2 life. They have no reach. As far as I know, they're still dead. But that was very impressive. Alright, they're at 3. They just take Brazen Borrower damage and die. Alright. Spooky stuff off of the Nissa with Kogla and Yadaro and Great Henge. All 3 of those really functioned well together. Nissa ramping into the other stuff. Kogla and Yadaro making the Great Henge just cost like 2. That was pretty nasty, but we still find the win in the end. We are 4-2 as we head into round 7. Here we are on the play for game number 7. I'm just going to hold up Censor turn 2. I'm not actually very excited about Rona just in general. Although I am going to tap out for the Restoration of Eiganjo next turn anyway. But then I can use Restoration of Eiganjo to discard Rona and reanimate them for free, which is pretty cool. Yeah, if they play any decent 2-drop, that's a very good one. And then I'll counter it with Censor, because I want to go Restoration of Eiganjo into discard and play Rona for free. And here we go. Restoration time. Working our way up to our 7 mana for Approach of the Second Sun. We are against another Boros aggro deck with Elite Spellbinder to annoy us. Probably pick Aether Channeler here. If they pick Rona, then they stop the Restoration fancy play with it, but I can just cast it for 4 kind of easily. So I think they'd pick Aether Channeler. Yep. It'd be the best one, because we could just play it and get a 1/1 flyer, and then Elite Spellbinder can't do much. I guess I could ramp instead of playing Rona for free, but I like having my 4 mana up for commit. Grab another blue source. Next turn, we're going to tap out for an Aether Channeler, get a 1/1 flyer so Elite Spellbinder can't hit us, so Paulo keeps off of us. Good old Pablo Doritos. I don't know if you've ever heard the story, but Channel Fireball has a running joke because they were having dinner somewhere and they just wrote down Pablo Doritos for Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa. Which is funny. Alright. Commit the Sarah Paragon here, keep that off of us. Flip the Restoration of Eiganjo. Drop an Aether Channeler, get a 1/1 flyer to keep the Spellbinder off of us. We're at 5 out of 7 mana for Approach. Still probably better to draw and discard than deal 1 damage to them, even though I probably just want to keep this land. Glorybringer. Definitely a grown test card. Creatures with removal spells attached are disgusting and limited, even in cube. They are brutally good. And Glorybringer has several removal spells attached. Every time it can attack in, they can exert it and blow something up again. Dismiss your turn too late. I would have held you up. Maybe I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't. I'm impatient. This is why I'm bad at control decks. But we can pretend I would have held Dismiss up if I had it, and we would have gotten around the Glorybringer. That's so annoying. But if they choose Dismiss, I can still spend 6 mana and do it. So I guess they just choose Approach here and that just never happens. If this flips, that's super, super bad too. I really don't want to have to dismiss this. I'm just going to let them do it. They had Paulo Vitor, Dama de Rosa, and Invasion of Gobakon. Super taxing on my sanity and my mana costs. I don't like spending extra mana. This is Divine Justice, though, because we have Nightclub Bouncered a lot of things. And then every time we, like, Nightclub Bouncered something, we just bounced even more after that. I don't need this land anymore. I'm not getting a 10 for Approach. Or 9, I guess. Ranger of Eos. It's fine. I think holding up Dismiss is better, but then we're just dying to Glorybringer now. Yeah, Glorybringer gets in, blows up our bird. And we can't block any flyers, so Spellbinder hits there. Glorybringer hits us, we're down to 9. They flip the invasion. Oh, we are so dead. I need to find something like right now. Discard this Ranger for something good. Well, I mean, Thraben Inspector is castable, and we can draw a card off of it. If I hit a land, I'll still have Dismiss up. And I'm dead anyway, even if I hold Dismiss up. Well. It would be pretty sad if we don't draw our board wipe this entire draft. Because I think that's our one big out now. We can board wipe the Glorybringer away, because we don't have a lot of single target removal. We've got the counter spells, but I didn't have a counter spell in hand for Glorybringer at the time. That's not good. I mean, I still feel like our only way out of this is drawing into our board wipe, so it might be better to dig with Supreme Will than it is to counter that, because it's not immediate lethal or anything. It actually doesn't change all that much. We just take 2 more damage, but we still already weren't blocking anywhere. You just add 2 to the big number. Yeah, and if they do it this way, they're only hitting us for 1 more damage than they would have otherwise, because they could have just sent Paulo at the invasion. Alright, yeah. I think it's really reasonable to just let them all of the Skyclaves resolve there. And go for the digging for an out. Wait, this gives indestructible too, doesn't it? Oh, it's hexproof and indestructible. Okay, so then it doesn't matter. We actually don't have an out. Unless I Supreme Will the flip. Which I guess is what we have to do. Now I have to Supreme Will the flip and then top deck the board wipe. So I can't afford to let them give the board hexproof indestructible. Alright. Well. Still think countering the flip was better than countering the maul. I guess I can put Yorion in hand and hold up Dismiss now. I can't just memory, because then I'm at 8 life against a red-white opponent with a fresh grip of 7 that's already dealing 5 to me. They just deal 3 more with 1 lightning bolt and we're dead. Well, we're not blocking, are we? Nope. It's 5 mana and 2 life to flip this. That's not happening. Still digging for outs, so I hold the Rona back to draw and discard. Probably ditching Yorion for a board wipe if we find it. If we do not, we probably just discard whatever we draw. There's Volcanic Spite on Rona, sure. Find a Nightclub Bouncer. It's definitely better than Yorion, at least. Right now. Maybe I should have discarded Dismiss here, because then I can Bouncer the Spellbinder and Yorion it back. Could have been reasonable. So they can replay Spellbinder for 5. If I do this, it's fine. What if I Bouncer Glorybringer? Then I'm just dead in this guy. Next turn. Anyway, yeah, I have to just Bouncer right now. There are a lot of different lines we could be taking here. There's definitely some that have other advantages that I think are marginally better than what we've been doing. I don't think there's any incredible lines that would be in a winning position right now. There's a lot of different stuff to choose from. And that is kind of always the case in Arena Cube as well. There's just so many decision points. See, like now our opponent picks between the Spellbinder or the Paragon, and if they Paragon, they get to get Aspirant or Invasion back. They have to pick between those two. They pick the Aspirants, which gives us a better shot at victory if we draw into our board wipe, which is nice, but we didn't draw into the board wipe, and now we are just dead. Because they just use the Aspirant to put a counter on Paragon, and that's 8 damage in the sky, plus they have the Maul they can move around. Yeah. We had one out, tried to draw towards it here, or tried to stall things out as long as I could to try to find it, but we did not find it. Didn't even find it off the draw 7. And we are very dead on board. That is going to end Arena Cube Draft number 2, a defeat for the blue-white Sky Noodle deck. All right, well, that is going to do it for today's draft. We got a 4-3 record, not bad at all. Still another positive win rate run. If I can just keep with those, I'll be pretty happy, but would have been nice to find one more win, get all of our gold back out of the event. But still, pretty good time for the blue-white deck. I think that's a reasonable run, as I think the deck is quite solid, but I'm definitely not very good at piloting control sort of archetypes like this. I think we drafted this out pretty well, and the deck build went pretty great. I think 28 cards in a 60 or 28 lands in a 60 card control deck is perfectly reasonable. Never felt like I was drawing way too many lands or anything. So I think that the 60 card version was actually better. I think running Yorion in the companion slot was pretty awesome, having that extra card available in all of those games. So pretty happy with the deck itself. That part was pretty awesome. The big thing is the gameplay. And it is very interesting to look back on gameplay in Arena Cube in particular, because there's so many powerful plays, so many options at many different points, that there's like infinite things that can be done in hindsight when you look over the games and go back, like that can just vastly alter the course of the game to where, well, if I had done this, I'd be in a better position here, but then our opponent would have played dramatically differently from then on as well, and there's so much to look back on, which is really interesting. So I'm sure with perfect plays, at least with better plays, this deck could have at least been at like 5-2 right now. There were probably at least 2 of those games that were technically winnable, so maybe 6-1 had we played it out perfectly. But again, not super confident, not super comfortable in the more controlling roles, especially the ones that are much more constructed power level, like when you get into Arena Cube power level of control decks. So I think 4-3 for this deck is pretty reasonable for my standards as a dirty aggro player. So super fun draft overall, though, being able to play a super different archetype from the first time around, go from mono red aggro to blue white control, get a nice look at 2 very different ends of the spectrum in the Arena Cube. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel, as well as you for watching the videos. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.